How about now? Does it work? Got me? You hear me? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Yes. Yes. Clear. Clear. Fuck yeah. Where were we? Oh yeah. Whoa, that's Shenny. Welcome to another exciting edition of Tuesday Night Live. Hope you are all doing well. Can you turn the lights back up? Yeah, I'm on the live right now. It is nice to be here. It is nice to see all of your names popping up. Happy to be back at it. Seth Monk here, coming live from Methuen, Massachusetts, where it is 10 p.m. A little bit different than my normal live time. I'm looking forward to coming home to LA on Sunday and getting back in my normal groove. Thank you all for sticking with me and hanging out until this late hour, especially you on the East Coast. For you on the West Coast, you guys have it easy life. I was last week in the woods with friends. I own a piece of land in New Hampshire, in Rumney, New Hampshire, with 4 friends, and spent the week living in the forests, and it was amazing. It was a really beautiful experience, a great time with a lot of laughter, a lot of nature. Just really enjoyed myself. And there's something really, special about being in nature, and you get in touch with the elements of life force. It became really apparent to me that in Los Angeles we're living in an artificially created environment. There's roads and buildings and concrete in our homes, and it's all artificially created, and you can pretty much go through your whole day without having to interact with much that was naturally created, as it were. And so, being in a place where I'm sleeping in a tent and I'm bathing in a stream and it's raining and I'm touching the earth and I'm, just really in touch with things as they are. It was beautiful, and it was really balancing. And it really was just an amazing reminder. It was an amazing reminder that I think that most of the problems that we face, a lot of our mental health issues, emotional issues, if we just went and spent time in the woods, if we spent time in nature, in the sun, went on hikes, just really spent good amounts of time out in the world, in the natural world, a lot of our problems would actually kind of fall away. And it's no surprise that a lot of people feel anxiety and feel depression and feel isolation and feel kind of the unmanageableness of life. It's because it is unmanageable, because the way that we live life and the world we've created for ourselves is not manageable. It's not sustainable. And it's not how any other being has ever lived on this planet for the last billion years. It's just in the last couple hundred years. And with the advent of phones and computers and screens, we're also often living even a step further removed, even from our physical bodies, that we're living almost like in a mental world. This is a great pitch for my for my virtual meditation. But it's true. It's true. So that was my pitch for you to get outside and get some real nature and enjoy yourselves. And yeah, what would nature everyday grounding? Ooh, I can show your comments. This is cool. Unplug from Tessa. Wow. This is amazing. I love mass. Whoa. Great to see you. Thank you. Randomly popping up message. I wanted to see if there's anything that people wanted me to talk about this evening. Is there anything that is on your minds? Anything you're going through? Any themes that you've been working on? So I want to make this actually applicable to you and where you're all at. So let me know kind of what's going on for you in your lives. What do you need to learn more about, hear more about? What would you like my thoughts and reflections on? What seems like a salient theme in the collective right now? So just whatever comes to mind. In what is it? In human design, I'm a generator. I think that's human design. Is that human design? One of those things. I'm a generator, and I heard that means that I'm responsive. So I need to respond to things. So when I'm sitting by myself, I don't know anything. But as soon as there's something else or somebody else, and suddenly all of my collected information and wisdom comes to the surface. So, Tessa said, releasing trauma. Wow, just jumping in the deep end, huh? What comes to my mind when I hear that, when I was a monk in a monastery in Australia, and I was on a 3-month meditation retreat, I was alone, for about 20 hours of the day. And I took up the habit of talking to myself because I had to talk to someone. So I talked to me. And I remember at one point I gave myself a long speech, and that speech was about releasing trauma and healing trauma. And I remember what was coming to me was the theme of safety. That when we feel safe and more and more and more safe, trauma kind of just starts to, almost like the sun shining down on a puddle of water, it almost starts to like evaporate. That our nervous system starts to feel more safe. We start to feel more safe, and things that we weren't able to deal with, they actually start to be able to move and to shift through just feeling deeply, deeply, deeply safe and quiet and time. So really focusing on just being with your nervous system and the feeling of safety, creating a feeling of safety in yourself is one of the best things you can do to start releasing. Also, knowing that as you release trauma, you're going to have a lot of feelings, a lot of bodily sensations. You might feel like you're out of control, like there might be like shaking or things happening or whatever, and just know that that's all fine, that there's a reorganization that's happening around all of that. So, letting the natural intelligence of the body also kind of do its thing. Understand that it's a very nonlinear process. Healing is nonlinear, and there's times where it might seem like it's getting worse or it's like exacerbating, but it's not necessarily the case. So really pulling back from needing the process to look any certain way is really important, and really just allowing it to happen, allowing it to move through you, and just see what that means, and also recognizing that in most situations, here's a good one. You could all write this in the comments just to remember it. Multiple coexisting emotional realities. This is like one of my favorite sentences. And even you could just say coexisting emotional realities. Hey, look, I can even bring this comment up. Great to see. Oh, me? Thank you. Great to see you here too. So, multiple coexisting emotional realities. So, even towards one situation, you can have multiple coexisting emotional Facebook user, emotional realities, multiple coexisting emotional realities, which means towards the same situation, towards a person, towards a parent, right? Towards your father, right? You might feel love and gratitude and anger and hurt and betrayal, and they can coexist, right? And so allowing both sides of ourselves to have their space, to not let the part of us that's pissed off bully the other part that actually has love and gratitude, right? And conversely, not to let the part of us that has love and gratitude bully the parts of us that are angry and wounded. To allow multiple coexisting emotional realities. Parts of me feel pissed off, parts of me feel so much love, parts of me feel so much gratitude, parts of me feel like it's been betrayed, parts of me just want to punch something, parts of me just want to cry. Recognizing that we have all of these different parts, that we have these polarities within us, and they're equally valid and they're equally true and equally important. So that's also like a really big one, is allowing multiple aspects, multiple parts connected to the same situation, to the same emotion, to the same dynamic to exist and to all be seen and all be felt together. To not let one part of ourselves bully another part into saying this is the truth. What's also really cool is that when we work through trauma, we often realize that we have the ability to change the past, which is really neat. That the past is actually locked in place by our stories and our reality. And the fact is like the past is not here anymore. And a lot of our impression of the past was an interpretation of the situations we were in. When I work with people, there's oftentimes, especially around their parents, people feel hurt or angry or neglected or abandoned by their parents. And as we do more work, it's like, oh, my parents were actually just overwhelmed. Oh, actually, they did love me. They just felt helpless and powerless and didn't know how to do this thing. And oh, actually, they were in pain too. And suddenly it shifts from like, my parent was an asshole to my parent was overwhelmed, that they were just not able and capable to do this job called being a parent. Right. Or maybe it's like, oh, actually, they were good most of the time. And I was just holding on to this one incident. Or, there's a lot of different realizations that one comes to. So also really holding that space and allowing our reality to shift, our understanding of the past to shift as well. So yeah, these are just my off the top thoughts to that, Tessa. And Tess, let me know what you heard. Let me know how that sounded to you. Let me know if you want me to dig deeper into any parts of that. Jess, what's up, Jess? Jess said she has a lot of choices right now. I can bring it up on the screen. Can you guys see this when I bring it up on the screen? It's like a little talk show. Like Jessica. So cool. Jessica says she has a lot of choices and doesn't have the clarity. Oh, wait, part two. Choices in career. Where I put my attention, where I say not this. Mm-hmm. So that's so cool. I love that this can come up like that. So what I would say to that is, first of all, congratulations. Having a lot of choices is actually wonderful. A lot of people don't have choices. So having a lot of choices, although it's overwhelming, it is a blessing. So first, acknowledging the blessing. Secondly, when we have a lot of choices, there's two different things I want to say about this. One, and this is in general for a lot of parts of our lives, we are in a process. And processes are going to take their own time. When it is time for you to make the choice, it'll be clear. We want to rush that process. We want to get to the end. We want to have the answer in hand because we're fucking tired of not knowing and going back and forth and trying to figure shit out. The truth is, there will come that moment where that choice becomes clear. And this is for all of you. This is for all of the choices we make. There will come a moment where that choice, it becomes clear on which choice you need to make. Always. There always eventually comes the point where you make the choice, and that's the choice that you need to make. It always happens that way. So knowing that if you're in a process and you're unsure, just know that you are in a process. And maybe not putting so much pressure on yourself to have the answer, to figure it out, to have the thing in hand, maybe allowing yourself to be in the discomfort, allowing the discomfort to be, and allow yourself to not know, and breathe and feel that and be like, fuck, I wish it wasn't like this, but it is. That this is where I am, and letting that process happen. Also, another way I've learned to make choices is to ask yourself, who do I want to be? Right? So it's not which thing I want, but it's who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? If I do this choice, envisioning that, what does that feel like? Does that feel expansive, uplifting, empowering? Or does it feel contracting? Does it feel old? Does it feel safe? What do I want to be, and what is the energy stream that I want to connect to? Which choice is feels alive and feels free and feels exciting and feels like I'm opening up into a new thing, right? Versus what choice feels like it's old and it's something I've already done and it's familiar, but it's not like expansive, right? So it's also just choosing from that energetic place. What are the energetics that you're attracting in with that choice? As you make a new choice, you're anchoring a new energy into your reality. I have recently been making choices that have been way outside of what I thought that I would be choosing in different things. And it's terrifying. And even sometimes it feels reckless. Even me being in Boston, going living in the forest for a week, but I just decided this is important. I'm going to do it. And it feels expansive and it feels great. And there's an energetic element to it that I wanted to choose for myself to connect with. Vibe check. Here. Vibe check. I'm gonna have so much fun with these. So, really connecting to what is the energy that we want to connect to. Who do I want to become? What is the direction I want to move in? And I think between those two things, right? So it's like kind of projecting that future path, which feels more like alive and electric and ecstatic, and simultaneously being like, hey, like when it's time to figure this thing out, I'll figure it out. And it's processing in your brain. It's gonna be processing. Like you're gonna wake up thinking about it in the middle of the night. You're gonna be talking to people, little bits of information. Every time you talk about the choices, you're gonna get like a new little bit, and eventually it's gonna just become clear. So I'm gonna give you the advice that nobody wants to hear. And that advice is there is nothing to do except be exactly where you are. Fuck. All right, Tessa. Yes, I heard I can talk to myself and I'm in a process. I need to listen to my body and also allow it to change, even physically. I don't know how to be emotional. You don't know how to be emotional, Tessa. You are an incredibly emotional person. I know you. What do you mean you don't know how to be emotional? Explain yourself. And also, if there's anybody else that has anything they'd like me to talk about or mention, I am here for it. This is my time to share, reflect. Me? Yes, you. Couldn't be. Then who? Yeah, emotional processes. It's so interesting. I do this for a living. I work at 3 different meditation studios, and I work at an outpatient center where I'm dealing with people that have severe mental illness, and I also work in a men's group, where I'm surrounded by a lot of guys going through a lot of stuff, and I lead retreats, and I have this, and I have one-on-one clients. If anybody here wants to work one-on-one with me, you can. And there's no real one way to do any of this. It's all so like individual about like where you are and like what you're going through. There's no recipe, there's no one answer to any of this. It's all very specific to kind of like where you're at. Um, Dealing with childhood stuff is hard. I feel disconnected from my younger self. So there's a sentence. All right, everybody, let's look at this one. And then I'll get back to Jessica afterwards. First of all, by saying dealing with childhood stuff is hard, that is a form of black magic. You are casting a spell on yourself. It does not have to be hard. You are learning how to do it. Check that languaging. That languaging is creating a reality that you're up against a wall. It's hard. It doesn't have to be hard. That's the perspective you're choosing. Even if that's what you've been experiencing, that's the perspective you're choosing. So see if you could choose another narrative around it. Secondly, I feel disconnected from my younger self. I think a lot of us can relate to that. So we have, I would say, the heart and the mind. What I've come to realize is that my nervous system, my belly, my heart, my body, that's actually my inner child. My thinking mind, that's my inner parent. Often my body, my nervous system wants or doesn't want something, or feels afraid, or feels overwhelmed, or feels in love, or feels terrified. And my brain will judge or criticize or try to control. And I realize that I do to my nervous system the same things that my parents did to me. That it's as if my parents treated child Seth a certain way, and I took my parents and put them into my brain, and then I say those words to my own nervous system, and I recreate the same dynamics within myself. So if you feel disconnected to your emotional body, your inner child, younger self, that also potentially means that there is a disconnect between you and your parents emotionally, that you were not acknowledged emotionally from the outside, and therefore struggle to acknowledge yourself emotionally, which is very normal. And that's a scary process, and that's a very vulnerable and tender process. And it's really good that you're doing that. And this is, I think, for everybody, is that all of us have these really tender parts of us. Oh, getting the whole download here from Jess. Okay, get back to that. So, being tender with ourselves, and realizing that if we've neglected ourselves emotionally for a long time, that when we try to get in touch with ourselves, we're going to have trouble feeling things, and that the feelings then may be exaggerated or exacerbated, or we're going to have trouble knowing what we want and what we don't want. And there's going to be a lot of like guilt and a lot of shame and a lot of like not wanting to take up space, or then taking up too much space, or just all of that kind of like, just trying to like reorient. So giving ourselves grace and gentleness and softness and permission to just slowly discover and to feel. And to start small. Start with, well, what do you know? Right? You say you feel disconnected from younger self. We all feel disconnected from ourselves in different ways. But if I were to say to you, like, well, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? You know, what do you like? What toppings do you like in your pizza? What's your favorite kombucha? You know, right now, would you rather be on a tropical island or be on top of a mountain? You know, we could start asking you questions and you'd have answers, and slowly it's like, okay, well, actually, I do know things about myself. I am connected to parts of myself. I am connected to things that I want and I like, and things that I don't really like and I don't feel good, right? So starting with the low hanging fruit, what are the things that you're very clear about, what you like and you don't like, you want, you don't want, things that you have clear opinions towards, clear feelings towards, and then kind of build from that out. And it's a process. It's a process of like discovering ourselves, which doesn't have to be hard. It can be exciting. It can be an adventure. It can be a journey of self-love, right? So just for your own narrative to say like, this is hard versus like, this is a journey of self-love. This is an exciting journey I'm on. Exciting journeys can be difficult at times, right? But just the way we frame it can also change our way of relating to it, right? Because ultimately, when we're connecting back to ourselves, that's a fucking beautiful, lovely, joyful process. That is not a process that needs to be hard. It doesn't have to feel like work. It doesn't have to be this like grind. It actually can be very beautiful, all depending on how we relate to it. So, Jess, my roommate is wondering, I'm worried what choices I'm making won't work. Well, Jess, I think that is probably the fear that everybody feels. I think everyone is always afraid of making the wrong choice. You make a choice that doesn't work, or um, every uh, every L, every loss that we have is actually just growth. It's just a step of growth. That even if you make a choice and that choice is like the wrong choice and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean that it was the wrong choice. Even if you choose something and that thing fails and falls apart, that doesn't mean it was the wrong choice. Maybe that's the lesson that you needed to learn right now. Maybe that's the experience you had to have, right? So, kind of zooming out a little bit, even when things don't work out, it doesn't mean they're wrong. It maybe means that that's just an experience that we had to make for various reasons. So, even being open to the choice you make completely crashing and burning and falling apart and failure, and that being perfect for what you needed, for the lessons, specific lessons you needed to learn, right? So, again, not the answer you probably want to hear, but it is actually more of a balanced understanding that even our failures are just the building blocks of our successes. That's just truth. So, not worrying so much about whether something's going to work or not work, because at the end of the day, we don't have full control over that. You might slip and fall getting out of the shower. Little simple things we fuck up all the time. Most injuries happen within a mile of the house. So it's usually the enemy that that gets you. It's usually the simple things that we mess up. You never know what's going to happen. Where calamity will strike. So 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 living our lives from a worrying catastrophe perspective, you know instead of thinking about like what's the worst that could happen, think about what's the best that can happen. Like literally shift your energy. What is the best that can happen? Right? I feel afraid, I feel anxious, I feel unsure. And what's the best that can happen? What if good was trying to come to me? So really allowing a different timeline to come through, allowing the energy of success to come into your field and to shift things for you. Uh, and it's just as valid. Worrying something won't work and assuming something will work, they're both valid. One of them can get heavy and kind of downward spirally. One can actually be uplifting and optimistic. And actually, if we're looking at a situation optimistically and we're like assuming it will work, we actually have a better chance of it working. So, so instead of worrying if something's not going to work, maybe start saying, what if this does work? What if this is amazing? What if this is the best choice I've ever made? And let that feel really good. Let that excitement and enthusiasm and optimism kind of come in. All right, Jessica Ryan. I'm going to put this one up here. Boom. I am a deep empath to the point it has contributed to illness. I am navigating out of illness, letting go from the physical. I'm in the process of becoming a healer full time. Terrifying, but just the true calling of my soul. Can we talk about a process empathy? Tell me more. What do you mean? Can we talk about a process empathy? There's also these weird, like, I don't know if those are emojis or what. Oh, processed empath. Gotcha. Processed empath. Well, I am of the belief that everyone is empathic, that a human being has an empathic nervous system, that all of us are empathic. And then over time, we process out of that, because if the world feels too out of control, we turn off that feeling of empathy because we feel overwhelmed all the time. And also, some people are more empathetic towards nature. Some people are more empathetic towards animals and babies. Some are more empathetic towards adults or the elderly. Some are, more empathetic towards whatever. So anyway, I think all of us are actually empathetic. If you're empathetic to the point that it contributes to illness, what often comes up for me in those sorts of things are boundaries. The inability to set boundaries, emotional boundaries, energetic boundaries, taking on other people's illnesses or suffering or problems to the point that you're hurting yourself, not allowing other people to suffer. What if other people need to suffer? What if their pain is what is necessary for them to make the changes in their life to become a better, stronger, fuller person? What if we're actually doing people a disservice by taking away their pain? Right? So we call ourselves healers, but are we healing people? If I do a healing and their pain is gone, am I actually helping them? Do I know that I'm helping them? How do I know that that pain wasn't going to be the thing that finally got them to start going to the gym or start taking care of their body or eating healthy or dealing with the thing that happened to them when they were a kid? So it's this really fascinating thing where, we don't actually know that just because someone feels better after they've done a thing with us, that it's helpful or good. And also being an empath, why? Why are we an empath? What are we gaining from that? Because we want to feel connected, right? Are we gaining a feeling of connection to others? Is it because we feel responsible for other people? Is it because if we can help people, then we're valuable to them and then they won't leave us or reject us? Right. So I often feel like when people have an imbalanced empathic side, um, there can often be also like something emotionally that they're trying to get out of their empathic um, qualities, right? Subconsciously. And I want to also just put on top of all that, and I mean this like really honestly, is that we live in a very sick world. Um, we we kind of are forced to shut down emotionally because if we were open emotionally, we would feel so much pain. This world has so much pain in it, and I think the world always has pain. And I know that there's times where maybe the world feels more or less pain, but right now there's a lot of pain in the world, a lot, and it's everywhere. And the average human being is living in a very energetically low state, and a lot of the media that's coming and social media or news media or newspaper media or a lot of things, ways that strangers interact with each other. There's a lot of pain, and the average human being who has feelings feels that pain, in their nervous system, feels that pain in their DNA. That we all feel the oppression of the world on so many levels, and all of us really need to find a way to come to terms with the truth of suffering, the truth of pain, um, the reality that that is a part of life. It is a part of existence. That I know a lot of spiritual teachers, go love and light direction, and I go there often, um, very consciously and necessarily in some cases. Um, but that's to create the counterbalance. That's to create the other polarity. Most of us don't see the light. Most of us don't have hope. Most of us feel stuck. We just feel stuck in a situation that's out of our control, and we're just coping and we're just trying to get by. So it's important to give people hope and give people inspiration and positivity, and to open up the capacity to dream and the capacity to envision and create a new situation, a new life, a new world, a new existence, a new humanity. And it is possible. A lot of the suffering that we see is man-made. We create it. We do it ourselves. Human-made, let's say. We do it to ourselves, and it's crazy. When I was living in the woods, when I was living in the woods for 1 week, this last time in the woods, I had one of those moments where it's like, what are we doing? Like, why, yeah, why do we do this to each other? Why do we live in a world that is so difficult? Why do we create so much difficulty? Like, why aren't we all just feeding each other and dancing and singing and making art and making love and celebrating every fucking day this beautiful life and this earth and each other. Why are we choosing? Why are we choosing anger and fear and heaviness and frustration and wars? It's a choice. And we're making it together. We're dreaming this dream together. And it's crazy. And it's unnecessary. And recognizing which pain is inescapable. I would even say first recognizing just what's there, seeing the pain that's already there, and then seeing what is just the pain of life, and then also seeing what is the extra pain that's being created by myself and also by like others in society and family and friends and whatever. And that's like where we start to work, right? And then we start to see, how can I live my life in a way that I'm creating less and less pain for myself? How can I live my life in a way that I'm feeling happier and happier, more joyful each day? And it'll also involve having conversations with people, setting new kinds of boundaries, saying what you want and you don't want, letting go of relationships that don't serve us, creating new relationships that do serve us. It's a whole kind of life shift of how do we create a reality? How do we decide in our energetic constellation of people and activities in place, and even our internal worlds, right, in a way that uplifts us and makes us grow and makes us feel healthier and stronger. So, with all of that being said, I'm going to invite y'all to meditate with me. So I invite you to get into a position that feels comfortable, that feels stable, that feels relaxed. This can be sitting, it can be laying down. And I invite you to close your eyes. Taking a deep breath. And just beginning to soften. If there was one word that I could give to all meditators, it would be soften. And as we soften the boundaries between the body and the space around the body, between the self and the world, the boundaries of self and other, of me and not me, the boundaries between the parts of me, my happiness, my anger, my pain, my love, my thoughts, my breath, all the boundaries start to soften as well. It's like you built a whole world out of Play-Doh. And as the sun starts shining, all that Play-Doh starts melting and just oozing together and making just this one big ball. What if we could soften so much that we just soften into oneness, into unity? What if you could soften into God, into universe, into source, to spirit? Whatever your understanding is, letting it all soften. Breathing. And as you breathe, imagine that you're breathing in all that space that's around you, as if the body was permeable, that as you breathe in, just all the space just flows into your center. And as you breathe out, kind of just expanding into the space of the room around you. Shifting our center, our identification to the space around us. And the more you soften, the more that space becomes you. You become space. Space is peaceful, quiet, still, and expansive. Tuning in to the infinite and eternal, that timeless peace and quiet of space. Breathing, allowing the movement of breath to be the only thing that exists in space. As we breathe and relax, we begin receiving everything that we need. As we connect back to the energy of the universe, we begin receiving nutrients, blessings, healing, love. Breathing deeply, just pulling in the peace, pulling in the stillness, pulling in the safety. Hmm. Connecting back to the center of your heart. Breathing into the heart. Feeling gratitude for this moment, for this life. feeling gratitude for this connection to something bigger than yourself, which is your real self. Gratitude is an anchoring energy, lets us know that we've arrived. The last really deep breath, coming back. And you can gently stretch out. Whenever you're ready, you can come back and open your eyes. It is 11 p.m. here, so I'm going to slowly make the transition from this into sleep. Really appreciate you all joining me, channeling this peaceful energy. For those on the East Coast, the Massachusetts, New Hampshire area, I'm leading an event on Thursday night in Pelham, New Hampshire at Moon River Wellness. Event on Friday night in Ayer, Mass, Dragonfly. Maybe it's Devon's. And on Saturday, I'm leading an energy healers training in Pelham, New Hampshire, where you can learn to be an energy healer. If you're around this area, let me know. Feel free to reach out to me if you'd like any individual sessions. And otherwise, I will see you here, same time ish next week. Thank you all. Have a beautiful night.